Hey, what's up everyone? Happy Friday. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. If you're returning, thank you so much for coming back. Today I'll be talking about the last voyage of the Demeter. This is a brand new but a brand new Dracula movie. I guess in terms of new, it's something that we haven't necessarily seen before when it comes to the story of Dracula. So this is actually taking basically out of a chapter from the book of Dracula, specifically around the captain's log of the Demeter. So here we find someone by the name of Clemens who is looking to get to England. He finds that there's a ship that's looking to get crude that's going to help them transport various crates across the sea and get to England in a pretty quick time frame because they are trying to get a big bonus payment. So they don't really know that one of the crates contains Count Dracula, and that's the core of this movie. And when the trailer came out, I remember like, man, this looks pretty cool. This looks really interesting, and caught this one last night and have to say that I did enjoy it. Is it a perfect Dracula movie? No, and we'll get into the positives and negatives on this. So let's go into the positives. I really enjoyed just the time period setting of this. The having, a ship going across on this kind of voyage and then having a vampire on board it definitely makes for a tense movie, and this one is definitely tense. I've seen some kind of early reviews that said that Dracula wasn't in this very much. I'd say he's in this quite a bit, but going into like one of the minor negatives is like being on a ship and the fact that Dracula will only come out during the night. This is a very dark movie. We're dealing with water, we're dealing with storms, so there's a lot of rain. There's just a lot of moments where it's very, very dark and it's very hard to see things. So when it comes to Dracula himself, I could get that there's probably moments where he could be there, but you just don't really see him. And some of that may go into the appeal of what am I looking at on the ship? Like what's actually there, crawling around, walking around, communicating with me. The communication aspect in this is really fascinating as well. But going back into the story of this, we have Clemens, who is a graduate trying to be a doctor, just really trying to understand the world and where his place is and trying to make meaning of things. And initially just they don't want him on the ship. They're looking for basically strong workers that can carry these crates and understand how a ship operates, whereas it seems that the symbols, the markings that are on these crates, the people know about, and they're kind of like hesitant, like, hey, like, I don't want to be a part of that. Best of luck to you. Y'all keep the money and hope you can make it. And that's the vibe that we get from this. And so eventually we see that Clemens is brought onto the ship, and then we just see all of these crazy things happening, which leads to them realizing that there is something on the ship. Now, let's go into, I guess, a few more positives before we get into the negatives. I will say that I really enjoyed the overall cast of this. We had Corey Hawkins playing Clemens. I thought he did a fantastic job. Liam Cunningham, Game of Thrones, just solid job. We had David Dastmalchian. He's in so much. Boogeyman, Suicide Squad, Dark Knight, everyone else was fairly new. I wasn't very familiar with the rest of the cast. But we also have a stowaway on the ship as well, Anna. And I don't really know if her role was completely necessary. This is a 2-hour movie. I think without having her in this or having the context with her just to really connect some things, could have been done without, to shorten this runtime. I will say this, a minor negative is this movie does run a little bit long. I could see where people could think that it drags or get a little bored by it. But I thought she did a pretty solid job. And in a way, it does kind of help connect the full story of things. I just know the actress from The Nightingale is where I know her from. I also wasn't super familiar with the director of this initially, Andre, and I'm not going to pronounce his last name properly, but I have seen a lot of the films that he's worked on. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, The Autopsy of Jane Doe, Troll Hunter are some of them. So And he's working on a Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark Part 2. So I think the direction of this was really solid. The cast was really solid. The performances really uplifted this, and the performances were what really kept me glued to the screen. And having this kind of narrative viewpoint of we're going across the waters and what happens day to day, and trying to figure out, like, is there something on board the ship with us, and what's happening to the animals, what's happening to the crew, why did crew go missing, or why are there scratches or bites or blood everywhere, like, and that's also note, this is quite a bloody film, and I think that definitely helped escalate this as well. Now, when we get to some of the negatives on this, really for me, it had to go into the CGI. I love Dracula, but if they could have gone more practical, I would have liked this so much more. We have this version of Dracula that has wings, like, he's not transformed to his full human form yet, but it's kind of known that the stowaway is like, look, you know, my village knows all about this. You know, she calls him a man, but it's a beast that can walk around and imitate like a man or look like a man. But we don't really get that here. We're getting this kind of very weak and feeble bat-like creature that the more it feeds, you know, the stronger that it becomes, and eventually is just flying around. So I understand, like, going the CGI route to kind of get that flying effect, but there's just some standout moments where I think it could have looked a little bit cooler. But that being said, like, Dracula's pretty much in this for the most of it. Now, some scenes it's like really quick and definitely gets a lot more screen time once you get into the third act. But yeah, I mean, just Dracula himself was, you know, cool enough for me. And then how this movie kind of wrapped up and ended, because, you know, this is part of a big book, so we kind of know that this is going to lead into even more stories of trying to find and kill Dracula. Overall, I thought this was a good film. I've probably not one of my favorite Dracula films when it comes to Draculas or vampires, but I did think this was pretty solid enough for a good watch. So if you got nothing going on this weekend and you're into horror movies, vampires, Dracula, any of that, definitely go check this out and let me know what you think in the comments below. So for the last Voyage of the Demeter, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. Few little nitpicky things that I think could have, you know, probably elevated this so much more, but I think for what this is, it's really solid. It was a good, entertaining watch. If you're like I said, if you're into vampires, I think you'll really enjoy this one. So thank you so much for stopping by and checking out this review. Please be sure to like and subscribe. That helps me out so much, and it means the world to me. And let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite vampire or Dracula movie? Let's talk about that in the comments. Would love to know. Looking for more vampire movies to watch. There is a movie called Vampire that's streaming on Shudder right now. I watched that earlier in the week. Actually liked it a little bit more than this one. It's more of a slow burn, kind of like very weird and creepy take, but maybe I'll do a review about that as well. Let me know what you think in the comments. Yeah, have a great weekend, everyone, and keep watching movies.